Welcome to episode 10 of WooWoo for the Skeptic. I'm Kim Polinder, your host and curiosity advocate for the world of metaphysics. Today we'll be getting a crash course on essential oils. You've probably seen oils on the shelves at the grocery store or know a friend who swears by them. What are they used for? Why are they so expensive? And how do they work? We'll explore these questions and more up ahead. The essential oils industry has exploded over recent years. The market is predicted to expand from $5.5 billion, measured in 2014, to $9.8 billion by 2020. I myself have contributed to this market by purchasing some oils in the past, mostly blends. And a blend is when they combine a few drops of different types of oils diluted in something like water or coconut oil. I've tried various blends which have been what I would describe as nice. They smelled good, but whether or not they were truly helping me, be it creativity or clearing my energy, I can't say for sure. I would have better data to report if I had used them for something like a physical ailment. During my research for this episode, I came across the frequencies associated with oils and health in the human body. For example, the healthy human body registers at around 62 to 68 megahertz. When you have a cold or the flu, this drops down to 57 or so megahertz, and more serious diseases can pull the body down to 40 to 50 megahertz. And when one begins to die, the body lowers to 25 megahertz. When it comes to food, processed or canned goods are at 0 megahertz. Fresh produce registers at 10 to 15 megahertz, fresh herbs are at 20 to 27, and essential oils, therapeutic grade, range from 52 to 320 megahertz. So, could essential oils work on the same principles as crystals, in that the human body, in theory, aligns to their frequency, thus potentially improving health? For more on the topic, please enjoy my conversation with Alexandra Howe. My guest today, Alexandra Howe, will be giving you an in-depth perspective into essential oils. Alex was born and raised in Washington State. She was a preschool teacher in a Reggio Emilia-inspired program for 9 years, and then lived in Oahu for 5 years. She attended the Institute of Integrative Nutrition for Holistic Health Coaching and recently moved back to Gig Harbor, Washington, where she is expanding her health and wellness coaching. Alex, thank you for being here and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So first, tell the listener how it was that you got involved with essential oils.
Sure, I'd love to. My journey with essential oils started about a little over 2 years ago. At this time, I was teaching in Oahu, like you mentioned, and I was struggling with a lot of my own ailments and issues and health concerns. At this time, I had been diagnosed with asthma. I was on 2 steroids for my asthma, a topical steroid for my eczema that I'd been struggling off and on with for about 10 years. And at this time, I also was just at the peak of my digestive issues. So when essential oils were introduced to me, I was really, really skeptical. I'm a very logical person, so it didn't logically connect with me that something as simple as an essential oil that you hear about in massage therapy or that, you've seen on the shelves at Whole Foods could actually make a difference in my body. If it was that easy, I felt like somebody would have introduced it to me a long time ago. This isn't the first time I've been sick. I mean, as a teacher, you get sick off and on pretty regularly, and I had been struggling with my own health issues for a long time. So needless to say, I was not on board. And it came down to a point where we had a friend who introduced us to them, and they sat in our house in the box that she sent them in for a good 2 to 3 months unopened. And one night they kind of teamed up on me, and I had a stomach ache, a really bad stomach ache. And just to kind of give a glimpse into it, my stomach aches used to, land me in the fetal position, 4 hours of cramping, just down for the count for the night. So we had plans to go out for dinner, and I got 1 drop of a tummy blend in a shot glass of water that I tried, but being the logical and naturally skeptical person that I am, when it worked, I didn't believe that it was the essential oil. I just, contributed it to the fact that maybe it wasn't going to be so bad, or I needed more water, or whatever I could create. So it was a good, 7 to 9 more times that I actually attempted to use an essential oil instead of my usual over-the-counter or prescriptions. And it just kept working every single time. So how I function is I started to research. I wanted to understand why this was working in my body. What was it doing? The different qualities that are out there. And I'm not the kind of person who's just introduced to something and I'm on board. So I did a lot of research and a lot of background information before I really committed to it. And once I understood, it's hard to go back. So I started sharing, with everybody in my life, just gradually, from pregnancy headaches where you can't use anything to bigger ailments and issues. And it's just, here we are 2 years later. And that's what jump-started my health coaching journey, actually.
I love that story and the natural progression that you were a skeptic and it took so much convincing. So if you look back, knowing what you do now, why do you feel that blend worked for your stomach? Like, what are some of the mechanics that are at play for oils?
One of the essential oils that was actually in that blend is peppermint, and another one was ginger. And we know both of those plants to actually be really great for settling tummies. We think about grabbing a ginger ale, or you think about moms would have us do like peppermint tea to help settle things. An essential oil is actually just hyper concentrated plants. So when you think about it, like 1 drop of peppermint essential oil is comparable to like 28 cups of peppermint tea. The point is you don't need a lot, and you are just getting those health benefits in like this super powerful form.
How long have they been used as a health supplement?
They have been used all the way to like 3500 BC. We know frankincense and myrrh from the Bible. We know of them being throughout the history, but I don't think that we really understand how much we lost touch with these aspects. So like the Greeks, the Romans, Chinese used them for rituals, for religious practices, all the way to like emotional benefits. Ayurveda has roots in essential oils. Aromatherapy itself didn't come around until about the like 20th century to actually like be coined as aromatherapy. That actually happened with biologists beginning to understand like the chemical sensors in the body to scent. But in terms of like just using them for health and wellness, we have the Egyptians back in the 3500 BC who used them for like cosmetic purposes, body odor, things like that. They also wanted to be buried with them. They actually coveted them more than a lot of their jewels. So when grave robbers would rob the graves, they actually stole the essential oils more than anything. It held such a high value in their culture. We have, China and acupressure probably about 2700 BC. And then we have Ayurveda that came in, and then Greece. And then, of course, we know Bethlehem and frankincense being more valuable than gold. I feel like frankincense is just liquid gold. I use it for everything. Somewhere along the lines in France, though, they actually started learning about the direct correlation between essential oils and physical ailments. So like lavender for burns on your body, or, using them for antiseptics in war. It's not so much a fad as that we're being reintroduced to something that's been around for a lot longer than modern medicine has.
Now, I know that there are diffusers that you can use to diffuse the oils in some manner. What is the difference between aromatherapy then and essential oils, or is it kind of all the same?
There's several different ways that you can use essential oils, and one of the ways is aromatically. And so when you use them aromatically, either through a diffuser or even just putting them in your hand and breathing them in, the molecules of essential oils are so small that they actually are chemically changing the way that your body is functioning when you're breathing them in. It'll actually just drastically change your limbic system, and your limbic system is about 90% of your human behavior. So aromatically, you're really getting the benefit of just like your emotional health and wellness.
Now, I know with crystals and rocks and stones, a lot of the sacred geometry makes them hold certain vibrations from the earth, and then the body kind of attunes to those. And so within oils, is that the same principle at work, the different energy levels or megahertz that might come into play?
I was surprised to see how woo-woo I've actually come, because I do use essential oils, with a lot of like yoga practitioners to do chakra healings and chakra cleansings. And one of my biggest tool that I use is something that's called a Zytoscan. And you'll find it a lot in like your naturopathic health clinics. It's hard to describe, but you put your hand on it and it actually reads the energies in your body and will give recommendations on essential oils that will actually match your energy. Because the biggest thing with any vibrations of what you want to do with essential oils is you want it to raise, right? We always want to raise our vibrational energy. So some of the things to look for in essential oils when it comes to vibrations is the quality of it. I can't emphasize enough that the quality of your essential oil really, really can determine your frequency in your body and how it is affecting you. So if you're getting a lower quality essential oil, even thinking about the work that the people are putting into these plants, that's all an energetic connection, right? If the people are disgruntled or the plant isn't as strong, then you're going to get a lower vibration. And essential oils can lower your vibration just as much as they can help you raise it.
So it's really important from plant to the whole processing to putting it in a bottle and shipping it. Yeah, environment around that.
Well, and we think about that a lot with our food. People who are really health conscious about where they get their meat, how their meat is sourced, will take that into consideration. It really isn't any different with our plants. Some of the essential oils that are on like the higher range of frequencies is like rose. Rose is about as high as you can go. It's about 320 megahertz, which if you're using a rose essential oil, be very careful, because the thing that I would want you to consider is that it takes about 5,000 tons of rose petals to make 1 gallon of rose oil. I don't know if that seems extreme, but that's a lot of plants to be able to make. So rose is a really rare oil to be able to get. So I just really do encourage people to look into the sourcing and look into the purity, because if you're using a rose oil that has like a synthetic compound to it or is heavily diluted, you're not going to get that vibrational frequency that you want from it. And you're also not going to really benefit from any of the healing benefits.
Yeah, that's a good point. And looking into the company that produces them and, as far as chemicals with the plants and whatnot and the harvesting, I imagine that would affect the vibration of the oil. That brings up another question is everybody can have different biochemistry in their body. A lot of times we gravitate towards, more is better. So having this idea of being judicious and being very conservative and knowing that, a little goes a long way. How do you guide people into easing into the world of oils?
The hardest things is getting that idea that less is more with essential oils, because we do think that if we are struggling, with pain in our heads or a headache or anything like that, we just want to layer it on. And your body metabolizes essential oils really quickly, which is one of the amazing benefits about it. With essential oils, because they are so potent, there's a couple things that I always do recommend for a couple different reasons. One is diluting them. And diluting them for one, because they are really, really potent. You don't need a lot. And so less is more. But also you can make your oils last a lot longer by incorporating them in with like a coconut oil, because they're not going to dissipate as quickly into the air. You want those essential oils really to soak into your system. So by using a carrier oil, you really allow those oils to basically get the most out of them. The other thing that I would say is that there's really 3 main ways that you can use them. And the last one's kind of controversial, but aromatically, we're really comfortable with, right? Massage therapy. We've seen diffusers. We've seen people heat oils. I also wouldn't recommend heating really high quality oils. The second way is topically, right? So if you are having pain in your knee, breathing something in, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So get it to the issue, especially if it's anything having to do with like inflammation in your body. And then the third way, which varies between American aromatherapist and like European, is actually using them internally. There's a lot in my own personal perspective and research that I've done and experience. There's a lot of benefits using them internally. And there's a fear around this idea that because they are so potent that our body won't be able to handle it. But if you think about the strength in our body and in our own natural dilution system, we have a lot of bugs. We have a lot of bacteria that lives in our system. We have viruses that live in our body. And essential oils, unlike antibiotics, can actually penetrate the cell membrane. So using them internally can be a really powerful tool for keeping your body strong and keeping your body healthy.
Have you ever known of any experiences where people have allergic reactions to oils?
I have, but that goes back to quality. Ideally, if the essential oil is distilled, at the utmost level, you would have all of the allergens removed in the distillation process. So ideally, there shouldn't be any allergens in the essential oils to be allergic to, but I definitely am going to tell everybody to take precaution on that. Test it slowly but surely. And going back to that whole, where are they sourced from? What testing do they go to? And if people are having allergic reaction, is it to the essential oil or is it to a filler that's in there or a contaminant? So I think one of my main things is definitely research. Do your own research and your own education on it.
Yeah, and as far as mixing and matching, and this may go back to the being judicious just in general, but are there certain combinations you shouldn't mix together, or should you just stick with one or two at a time?
That's kind of fluid. There is a whole science to the chemical compounds of essential oils and mixing them together and how they actually change mixed with certain oils. There's a lot of trusted aromatherapists that have blogs and have information out there. I've recommended diffuser recipes or roller bottle recipes if you're making your own blend, because the compounds will change depending on the oil that you mix it with. In the same moment, I would say experiment, try for your body, listen to that intuitive side of yourself. If we are going to go a little bit woo-woo on that, I know a lot of people who like to use the tools of like muscle testing by either actually holding it and asking your body if this essential oil is in your best interest. Some people will actually like put an essential oil open on the table and hold their hand above it, to test if it's just the potency and the vibrational energy. And if it warms as your hand goes above it, the higher your hand is, you get that sense behind it.
So if your hand starts warming up, that's a good sign?
It is a good sign. It means it has a really high vibrational energy. It's hard to explain via voice because I'm doing the motions as I sit.
Mm-hmm.
The other way to do it is actually using a pendulum and just asking it if this is in your best interest or what oil you need and different questions like that.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion about the muscle testing. And that might be a foreign concept to some people, but I might put some article or some YouTube link that can teach people how to muscle test at home. But I really like that suggestion. I was doing some research before this interview on oils, and it was interesting to me that certain oils are targeted towards just basic bodily health, body functions, and other oils more towards the woo-woo, like spiritual goals, I guess, that you might have. So let's first talk about some uses that maybe you mostly use with clients or that are a theme in your practice that people might resonate with.
I pretty much use essential oils for everything.
Let's take something like anxiety. What types of oils would help a person deal with anxiety?
It's funny that you say that, so I'm going to have to read this now. So these statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. So the FDA recently kind of went on a powerhouse and doesn't really like essential oils to be connected in with diagnosable ailments that actually have prescription drugs out there. So I have to kind of take that into consideration.
Okay. And that's a good disclaimer because this show as well does not recommend anything. We're not making any claims that this is going to heal you. It's just, my personal experiences and your personal experiences. So thank you for clarifying that.
Of course. No problem. Okay. So back to those feelings of anxiousness that a lot of people do struggle with. I would say, first and foremost, that for anxiousness, that I would definitely recommend aromatic use because your limbic system, it's really a quick way to just breathe it in and affect your limbic system and affect the way that you are actually feeling in that moment. Some of the oils that are really good, depending on your body, are going to be lavender, which is really, really calming. Also, if you're feeling anxiety or if you're feeling anxious because you just aren't connected into your root system, you might want to go for a tree essential oil like cedarwood or arborvitae or even frankincense to really ground you and base you in. One of the other ways that I really like to use them is actually applying them to your feet Because if you think of like a reflexology chart, your entire body is represented in your foot, where your nerves come down and they all meet. So by applying the essential oils to your feet or different areas of your feet, you can directly impact those different parts of your body. That's kind of good for people who don't want to be overly smelly, which I don't have any problem. But it's also a really good routine every morning to be, applying a certain blend to help you ground down or to help motivate you and get you going, kind of depending on what you need in the mornings. It's also amazing for your children, for like their immune support, to have like an immune boosting blend that you apply to their feet every day before school.
I like that. What about something like depression or a lot of sadness or grief?
There's a couple ways that I think about that because my health coaching side definitely wants to talk as well. If you are struggling with things like depression or anxiety chronically, your gut system is pretty much like your second brain. So you definitely want to look into your digestive tract and your probiotics and your omegas, because a lot of depression, anxiety, migraines, things like that can actually be stemming from inflammation that's in your brain. And your gut system is the root of your inflammation tract, right? So I would recommend to look at those. I would also recommend to see if you're eating a lot of inflammatory foods. And then I would also incorporate a really good routine for your day-to-day. So if depression is your main course of action that you want to focus on, then you're going to want to go for more of those uplifting citrus oils like wild orange, lemon, bergamot would be great. A lot of companies have blends that they have pre-made, hopefully by doctors. The essential oil company that I chose creates blends, emotional blends. They actually have an entire emotional aromatherapy kit based on psychologists and the information that we understand about our brain and the chemical reactions that these essential oils will have on you. So it's pretty fascinating.
And then if we go to the other side of the spectrum and talk about maybe someone who's challenged a little bit more by anger and rage or tenseness, what types of oils would you recommend for that?
So again, it kind of depends on what's causing the anger. If we're talking about like road rage and you're just not coping with life and every time you get in the car, things spark, ones to go for are obviously grounding oils like vetiver or cedarwood. You could also use oils like lavender, which is really calming, or ylang ylang or clary sage. Those are all flowers, and those are really calming agents. If you're working on like long-term stability, there's a blend that's called Balance that's actually spruce, hoe wood, frankincense, blue tansy, and chamomile. And I like to mix that with a blend called Serenity. That's lavender, cedarwood, ylang ylang, marjoram, Roman chamomile, and vetiver. And those together I call my monster blend. I actually use it a lot for parents who have kids who, have trouble with tantrums or just, everyday uses. But I find that it's actually more helpful for their parents and stability. But it is my go-to oil for those really large emotions that are hard to process and get through. So when I'm working with kids who have like sensory processing disorder and those tantrums are going to be huge, I like to go for those oils or those two blends to be able to help them and help their body use it as a tool to be able to cope and move through those really big feelings.
Yeah, and it sounds like now lavender is involved in a lot of different blends and is a really good, just all around base oil to have. Now, I don't know what's going on, but I have always disliked the smell of lavender. It's the kind of the after smell that gets me. And someone told me, well, you might be allergic to it or whatnot. Is there any alternative or substitute for lavender that you can recommend?
Oh, yeah. And you and me both on the lavender scale. I did find for me that it was the synthetic lavender that I couldn't stand. When I was introduced to a really pure lavender essential oil, for some reason, because of the purity, you don't get a whole lot of that like after smell. It's just really that clean, I guess is the best way to describe it.
That's a good point. I have not looked into the purity levels of my experiences with lavenders. I'm going to pay attention to that.
Yeah, definitely. So let's just say that you're not like a flower person, okay? Because like with lavender, you could aim for like clary sage, which I love. I think all women should have clary sage in their arsenal. It's just phenomenal. For just its hormone balancing and its ability to just connect in with the female endocrine system. It's a phenomenal oil to have. Petitgrain is known as like the men's lavender because it's a masculine smell to it and it has a lot of the same benefits. So lavender is really great, amazing for your skin. A lot of people don't know that it's really great at taking the itch out of bug bites. So really amazing for any wound care, for its anti-inflammatory properties, just taking care of burns and jumpstarting that healing process. It's really phenomenal.
So it's interesting you mentioned that point about for men.
Mm-hmm.
Do men and women react to oils differently, or is it just on an individual basis?
It's really more on an individual basis, I find. And it really depends on your chemical makeup in your body. And it also really depends on your toxin levels in your body. I do find that people who have a higher toxin level, and let's say that they're dealing with things like a candida overgrowth, they are going to be more sensitive to essential oils naturally because one of the symptoms of having that bacteria overgrowth, and I don't just mean yeast infections, because candida is pretty much the basis of everything from inflammation in your lungs and asthma to diabetes to endocrine issues. So it's a much bigger issue than just yeast in your body. But they have a higher sense of smell. They have really, really sensitive smell issues. So if they smell something, it's going to be a lot more overwhelming than it would for their average person. And then on top of that, if they're utilizing any of the citrus oils that naturally detox our body and break down petrochemicals in our body, that toxin overload is going to react with those essential oils, and they might feel a little bit sluggish or a little bit tired at the beginning because their body is getting acclimated and actually detoxing some of this overload that they have and that they're dealing with.
Are there oils specifically targeting detoxing? Let's say someone has been, eating a lot of fried food, drinking a lot. Are there some oils that can help their body release that?
Oh, yeah. For every organ. I mean, if we're talking liver health, just drinking lemon essential oil throughout the day can really help support your liver in being able to eliminate a lot of those toxins. Our liver is such an overloaded organ in our system, so we really do need to take care of it, and not just for alcohol reasons. If we're talking about just our overall stomach, just even on a hangover, peppermint's going to be awesome. Lemon is obviously going to be the best for detoxing your system. You can use oregano is pretty much like a natural antibiotic. If you are struggling with big issues, it's also used in like pretty much every candida cleanse that you can come across as like the herb form. So the essential oil is going to be even that much more potent. It really does assist your body in being able to, kill off all the junk. And obviously, if you're going to be using oregano, you're going to have to follow up with a really heavy probiotic afterwards because you're going to be killing all that bad bacteria.
Good point. All right. Well, let's jump now over to the WooWoo side, my favorite side. What types of things can people do that's not related to the body, that maybe is related to their emotional health or their spiritual growth?
Oh, gosh. Essential oils are pretty much one of the biggest tools that you can have for your emotional, spiritual, balanced body. I think that a lot of us have kind of gone through life just kind of feeling like we have to deal or we have to just get over it. And the thing with essential oils is that they're actually a tool that you can use to be able to move through that emotion or bring it up, let's say, really gently. Like if you're bearing things like just through your body, right? We know like if you are having pain or if you're having issues in like your throat and thyroid area, maybe you're dealing with Hashimoto's or something like that. It could be coming from just not being able to express your true hidden emotions, feeling like you don't have a voice, or even feeling like you have a disconnect between your mind and your heart. So your emotions do just drastically affect the way that your body is functioning. And to be able to help that throat thyroid area, back to lavender, lavender is a really great one for helping with self-expression.
Do certain oils target certain chakras?
All of them will have a benefit, but that I would use a little bit of common sense on. Obviously, if you don't have a whole lot of experience with chakras, there's a lot of tools out there, like your root chakra. If you are having issues with some of those, then obviously you're going to want to connect with earth. You're going to want to connect with plants and trees because that is our grounding agent. Basil is really incredible for your adrenals and your core support. So basil might be one that you want to reach for. Or if you are having trouble connecting to your true self, frankincense is really powerful. Patchouli, if we're going to go really super hippie, is really physically grounding. And then, of course, vetiver, which is like it comes from the root, is very calming and centering. So those are really good oils to just basically bring you down, make you feel safe, make you feel connected in when your root chakra is out of balance.
Can you give me a few examples of how oils have made a difference in your life or the lives of clients?
Yeah, I can. One of my favorites actually is a story of one of my good friends who, before I was even into essential oils, she had this experience. And this experience was one of the reasons why I was a little bit more open to hearing more about the essential oils versus being more shut off. What happened is they live out in Montana. They were road tripping home for the holidays, really icy, snowy roads. And her husband was asleep in the back of the truck. He didn't have a seatbelt on or anything, just back there sleeping. They've been driving for hours. And she hit some black ice. And the car actually went off the road, turned over a couple times. Her husband got a huge gash in the back of his head. And while they were waiting for the ambulance to get there, she just kind of hectically reached in her bag for essential oils. And one of the ones that she grabbed was helichrysum. And she put a couple drops of helichrysum on this head wound. And we know that head wounds bleed and bleed and bleed. But by the time the ambulance was there, the bleeding had already stopped. And by the time they were in the hospital, the doctor pretty much just looked at him and just said, basically, I don't understand why your head isn't still bleeding. I feel like I need to do something. I need to do stitches. I need to do staples. I need to do something for this wound that basically was already starting to close. And her husband's response was, this was like early in their essential oil life. And he's like, I don't know. My wife just put some of her witch oils on him. And, here we are. It's just what she does. I like that story because of the combination of the modern medicine and the essential oil world combining and how much of a tool it could be in our modern medicine life. And that was one of the things that I really just listened to because I actually have a bleeding disorder myself called von Willebrand's. And so having a tool that I can have just in the kitchen if I cut myself or just day-to-day life is really empowering for somebody who wouldn't usually have a tool.
Do you know what it is about that particular oil that stops the bleeding, like how it interacts with the blood?
Yeah, it can actually act as a coagulant. It's in a lot of doTERRA's products that has to do with wound help. It's also a really good one to just help with like broken down cells like scarring or stretch marks. So it has a lot of those like reparative values. My other one, a really good friend of mine, her husband has dealt with heartburn, acid reflux, indigestion for most of his life. He's in the Army, so it's been the betterment of the last 15 years. I introduced the oils to them and we've been talking, and this was a couple years ago, probably about a year and a half. And so he kind of got a wild hair and decided he was going to start researching some of his prescriptions. And he had been on Nexium for about 8 years. And when he was reading about the side effects of them, he actually came across information that said that you're only supposed to be on Nexium for a max of 10 days. And he has had this prescription for 8 years. What Nexium did in his body is basically stop his acid production so that he no longer dealt with the heartburn, acid reflux, indigestion. But by not having any acid, he wasn't digesting his food the same. A lot of other things were coming from it. And what we did, we actually got him on the DigestZen, the digestive blend, as he was coming off his prescription. And to this day, like he'll use that blend every once in a while if he needs it, but he no longer is on his prescription. He's not having acid reflux or heartburn issues. He can actually sleep on his side, which anybody who struggles with that knows that that's a really painful thing to do, depending on what side you sleep on, because it just settles in your chest. So I thought that was a really powerful tool or story for the internal benefits that you can have by using really pure quality essential oils.
Yeah, my brother has heartburn issues, so I'll definitely tell him about that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a quality of life. And, the last story that I have is about a mom who struggled with postpartum. I mean, how debilitating is it to go 9 months, give birth to your child, and then her words out of her own mouth is, I know that I should love this little being in my arms. I know that I should think it's so cute. I know that I should just be swooning over it, but I just don't feel anything. And as a mother, how intense that emotion is and how debilitating it is to not feel the emotions you want to be feeling in that situation. And so she was having trouble sleeping and this was debilitating her life. And she actually started using lavender to help herself sleep and also to help her calm down. because a lot of it was just anxiety over these feelings and this new chapter in her life. And it has completely changed her from being disconnected in this relationship with her child to actually helping herself and using these tools to get past her postpartum and start to really develop that relationship with her newest little addition. So on the emotional sides, it can be pretty beneficial as well.
Now, was she ingesting them or was she applying it topically?
She was applying lavender topically on her feet to help her sleep, and she also diffused it. And in times of stress or anxiety, she would actually put some in her hands, breathe it in, and then rub it into her ears.
Okay, and this would be a daily practice for her then?
It was actually a much more than just daily. So on the emotional side of things, you're going to want to use it when you feel those emotions, right? It's not like cleansing your face. It's every single time you feel it, you're going to want to reach for that tool because it just really does chemically change your limbic system. You're going to want to reach for that tool to help you start to work through it. And how essential oils work is instead of treating the symptom, they're actually empowering your body to get down to the root cause. So, there's that idea that there's an oil for that. It's just a cure-all. But what essential oils are doing is they're actually just getting down really deep into your system of why things are happening, where the allergy is stemming from, where's the headache coming from, and empowering your body to be stronger. So it's not a prescription that you have from now until forever. It's a tool that you're going to use to empower and strengthen your body. And you're going to reach for different things at different times, if that makes sense.
So was she taking any sort of prescription medication at the same time?
She wasn't. She refused to.
Wow. Very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any research out there as to the effectiveness of using oils?
That's been one of the biggest disconnects, is this disconnect between essential oils working for millions and millions of people across the globe and that science base that makes people actually believe that it's working, right? Everybody seems to think that not everybody, I won't speak for everybody. There's a huge majority of people who believe that essential oils are a placebo effect. And there is so much research out there. There's so much, but you have to research, you have to look. And so even on PubMed.com, you can hop in there. You can find a research on essential oils being more effective than DEET. You can find that a blend called On Guard actually kills the MRSA infection and is being used in hospitals to do just that. You can find lots of research about the connection between essential oils and the bacteria levels in our body, or the cellular renewing properties of frankincense. Frankincense is huge on that cellular renewing side, or the fact that they can actually penetrate the blood-brain barrier and can have effects on Alzheimer's. There's so many studies out there, and there's so many hospitals and universities who are doing more and more studies now because it is coming to the forefront of society to want the information, thank goodness. And the studies are being done. There's a website called source2you.com that actually is beginning to list all of the essential oil research studies that have been published out there. And there's so many that haven't been published yet, but they're on their way. I kind of view essential oils as like a quality of life change. Like when you get on the lifestyle, things definitely shift. I have had stories anywhere from a woman who was practically bedridden, not able to move because of this knee injury that she had, which is also causing her depression, which is also causing her anxiety. And she started to utilize a blend of frankincense and lemongrass, and also another blend of oils called Deep Blue. And she applied it daily to her body and was able to get up, clean her house, go grocery shopping, go crafting, which were things that she had just basically given up on for years. And then when she did go back to work, she was in a customer service job that she hated. That was awful. But she had her own blend of essential oils that she used every single time she was getting one of those negative calls. And she went from hating her job to getting best customer service of the month. Just that transition in it. I've seen a lot of changes in children and their ability to focus in school, or their ability to, build relationships. Or lately, I've been hearing so many stories on the improvement in their language from, a 13-year-old boy who barely had any words at this point in time, to applying frankincense on the back of the head daily In a month, went from 0 words to 26 words and even being able to call his mom, mom. The emotional feelings behind like having your own child actually be able to speak to you is just phenomenal because you're pretty much at a wit's end. And on the autoimmune side, anybody out there struggling with an autoimmune disease knows like how debilitating that is for your quality of life. And so to actually make that lifestyle change, I'm not going to say that essential oils are the cure-all because you do need to be making healthy choices in your life. If you are in a job that you just despise and hate, it doesn't take all the lavender in the world to make you like your job. So I do recommend, and I think that you definitely represent this in what you're educating on, is to make those life choices towards your true purpose and towards your authenticity. By utilizing some of these tools that you're introducing, it can make the process smoother and easier, and it can also really expand from where you're going.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it, like a quality of life improvement. Not a cure-all, but enhancing, aiding.
Right. Yeah, definitely. When we're talking about relieving toxins in our body, you can't be drinking an entire pack of beer every day and expect lemon to just, like, let's make some common sense choices.
Or mixing the lemon in the drink.
Right, which is actually really tasty. I actually my margaritas.
All right, so what would you say to skeptics who don't believe that essential oils can improve your health or make a difference?
Really, more than anything, I would say try it. Give it a chance. Don't buy one off the shelf and expect it to work. Because my other side of essential oils also is that you do need a support system. I do really believe that essential oils is kind of like learning a new language. If you don't have somebody to speak to in that new language, or if you don't have somebody to ask questions to or to support you in your essential oil journey, you're not going to follow through with it. You're not going to learn how to use them. You're not going to reach for them instead of your ibuprofen or your Pepto-Bismol. You're going to fall back on your domestication, what you've known this entire time. I would definitely recommend looking into really high quality pure essential oils. Make sure that they're sourced in their native origin. It's really important for the potency of the plant. It doesn't make any sense to grow Hawaiian plants in Washington, right? They're just not going to survive. And then also make sure that you have some sort of a support system to be able to be there for you to text, to be like, hey, what do I use? Or where do I look this up? Because people who are using essential oils are excited about them and they want to share. So there's plenty of information out there if you can just tap into it. But make sure that you have a little bit of an accountability partner so that you use them.
Mm-hmm. It can be a little bit overwhelming, like for myself when I was starting to research the oils, just all of the data that's out there. So I like your suggestion of going to someone who already has that passion, has done the research, and then being able to ask them questions about it.
Yeah, we're really lucky to live in this day and age where there's a lot of information out there. There's lots of books that you can buy on Amazon. Take everything with a grain of salt because you're going to get polar opposite perspectives on anything and everything. So,
yeah. And like you said, it comes down to how does it work for you? And the only way to find that out, if you're curious, is to give it a shot. Try it. So now I know your role within doTERRA is expanding into the company's humanitarian projects. What will that look like for you?
Well, one of the things about doTERRA, I was being so cautious about me saying brand names, but I stand behind that company 10,000%. But doTERRA chooses to source all of their plants from their native origin. 26 of these native origins are actually third world countries. If you think about what's going into these plants, what's going into the soil, you want to make sure there's no pesticides, no herbicides, no chemicals, but also what about the people? If we're sourcing frankincense and vetiver from these communities from Haiti, well, what is their life like? And that's one of the things that really matters to doTERRA. They call it co-impact sourcing, where we get to benefit from these amazing essential oils, but these communities also need a higher quality of life. So what doTERRA actually does is they take that third party out of the system where they actually pay them higher wages. They partner with several humanitarian projects, nonprofits like Days for Girls. And so what Days for Girls is doing is actually educating these women that they are powerful. Operation Underground Railroad, that's all about human trafficking. The kids can actually reach out and get help from themselves by contacting Underground Railroad. It's pretty phenomenal.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I had no idea that doTERRA was that actively involved in community quality of life like that. And those are some pretty big issues to tackle. So that's amazing.
Those are only 2 or 3 of them. And that has nothing to do with essential oils.
Yeah. Well, Alex, thank you. And I'm quite excited to try lavender again. And before I let you go, I wanted to switch over and ask you some fun questions to help listeners get to know a more personal side of you, if that's okay.
Yeah, fun. Okay.
Okay. So the first question.
All right.
What was your favorite music group or singer growing up?
Oh, well,
Did you have any posters hanging up, anything like that?
well, I mean, there's two very different sides of me. I loved like Nine Inch Nails and Tool growing up. But then on the same moment, my first concert that I ever went to was the Spice Girls. So a little polar perspective for you.
Well, that sounds like you were very balanced as a child.
Oh, okay, sure. Or whatever you want to say.
All right. The second question is, what was the worst thing you got in trouble for with your parents?
Gosh, I was such a good kid. I didn't get in trouble with my parents so much as I got in trouble with my sisters. I tattletaled on my sister for having her belly button pierced. And then I got in trouble because I had a Alanis Morissette CD too young well, it had cuss words in it. My mom wasn't stoked about that.
Oh.
Or my elder sister was never allowed to babysit me because she would like make me clean her room and things.
Yeah, so that's why you have such a passion for child labor.
Right?
All right. And then lastly, what is the number one thing on your bucket list?
Oh, there's too many. The humanitarian projects and being a part of that is huge. There's a part of me that really wants to like have a compound where, you know, it's just a community of people who want to like grow their own food and like live off the land and have sustainable living. I think that would be incredible to accomplish one day.
Yeah, there are a lot of intentional communities around San Diego, I know. So I think that's a growing trend, actually.
I'm all about empowerment, right? Being empowered to take care of your health is a lot of what the essential oils mean to me. It's the same thing with our food. It's the same thing with like our communities. I really do want society to feel empowered again, to be able to take care of our bodies and to take care of ourselves. So,
Yeah, that's a great message. All right. Well, I know you have some special promotions. If a listener wants to get more involved with essential oils, how should he or she go about that? Or what can you do to help them?
Well, I have a private Facebook group called Everything Essential Aloha. You're welcome to go and add yourself to it. It'll post the science and the information to it. It'll also post recipes, a little bit more information. You can email me at merakirain@gmail.com, which is MERAKIRAIN@gmail.com. And I can email you some information back. Some of the specials that I'm doing just specifically for you and your folks. This was a really quick overview of essential oils, and there's so much more information out there. So if you wanted to have a class, I can come and I can teach a class for you if you're in Washington State, or we can do a Skype class over the internet if you'd like for like 3 to 8 of your friends. Any more than that, it gets a little bit chaotic because I do want to give everybody like individual attention. I'll send you guys a little Hostess Getting Started gift for essential oils. And I was thinking, because winter's around the corner, like a seasonal upset blend of some sort of essential oils, I think would be fun.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. So essentially with Google Chat or whatever your method is, you can reach anyone in the country.
Oh, yeah. And they're a lot of fun to do because I'll just send everything in advance. The other one is to combine my health coaching. So for those who are really ready to make a transition in their health and in their life, I do have this whole also background in health coaching education, and you guys got to hear a little bit of my gut health spiel. But I wanted to offer my free services, health coaching for 6 months. If you do make that commitment to utilizing essential oils into your life, where the client would actually be able to have essential oils and get health coaching. And my health coaching's made just a little bit easier.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I love to hear your passion about the product and about the humanitarian efforts. And I wish you the best. Thanks, Alex.
Of course.
For this week's WooWoo News Corner, I found a study from 2005 which examined the ability of a combination of essential oils, such as fenugreek, cinnamon, cumin, oregano, etc., to enhance insulin sensitivity. Water or essential oils were given orally to insulin-resistant rats, and results were measured by blood pressure, circulating glucose, and insulin concentrations. The conclusion of the study was that the essential oil combinations did affect insulin sensitivity and lowered circulating glucose. I found other studies which suggested that tea tree oil could help with things like staph infections on the skin. However, for every study that supported the positive effects of essential oils, there were many articles that disregarded many of these studies due to lack of controlled environments. Considering this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, I look forward to more large-scale, controlled studies that will bring more resolution to this debate. Thank you for listening to WooWoo for the Skeptic. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends who might be curious about essential oils. I'd love to hear your feedback on it. And now for your moment of woo. This quote comes from Deepak Chopra. If we are creating ourselves all the time, then it is never too late to begin creating the bodies we want instead of the ones we mistakenly assume we are stuck with. Have a great week, everyone.